Thanks for joining us again for another episode. Matty is now back. We managed to drag Gibbo, kicking and screaming after the Rambo debacle, back into the fold. And now Matty is back. Matty, how are you?
Oh, loving it. Missing everybody.
Love it. Happy to be back?
Absolutely.
Happier than Gibbo by the sounds of it.
Yeah, well, look, I cannot fault the man for Rambo last night. I just can't. I feel for him. He needed 6 months to get over it.
It's nice to get out of the house and talk about movies. I feel like during the lockdown, my boy's been sizing me up. He's been telling me that when I get bigger, I'm going to have bigger arms than you, Dad. So I think we needed some time apart. I needed to get out of the house.
Yeah, you needed to get out, mate.
Yeah, just too much masculinity, too much for one household.
He's a tough 3-year-old, I'm just saying.
Now, tonight's episode is a listener pick. Friend of the show, Jehovah, put this one to us. It is the biopic of Bruce Lee, Dragon, the Bruce Lee story from 1993. Now, before we get into that, let's do a bit of a whip round as to what we have been watching. I'll do mine pretty fast. I've got a few, but I can get through them pretty quick. I saw The Way Back, the Ben Affleck alcoholic film. Really, really good. Really enjoyed it. Didn't quite go where I expected it to go. It does sort of sit on some of those sports cliches a little bit, but it was really, really good. And Ben Affleck is absolutely fantastic in it. Really, really good film. So definitely check it out if you can. I checked out the Blumhouse film Sweetheart. I don't know if you know about this one, Jared, at all.
Yeah, it's on the island. She's on an island or something like that.
Yeah. Basically, this girl's stranded on an island, and at night, this creature comes out of the water and comes onto the island looking for, I don't know, I guess people to kill or whatever. It had a reasonable idea, and the central performance was excellent, but it doesn't hold at all. I mean, it should have been like a half hour. It could have been an episode in a sort of, horror TV show or something. It would have been much better had it have been 30 minutes as opposed to 80 minutes.
Yeah.
And it doesn't hold water at all once it starts to get further into it.
Right.
So, good try. Classic Blumhouse. A cool idea, but obviously they knew this wasn't theatre worthy, put it that way. I watched The Nice Guys again.
Oh, yeah. Classic.
Yep. Yeah. Love that movie. I also seem to be really interested in geriatrics for a while. I went on a geriatric kick. I started with Rocky Balboa.
Right, yep.
Loved it. I then segued into Grudge Match.
Oh, yeah, not so good.
It was all right.
It's all right. It's got a few laughs.
I get a couple of giggles out of Grudge Match. I then segued further into Las Vegas.
Okay.
I was hoping you were going to say
into geriatric territory. And look, Las Vegas isn't brilliant either, but geez, you can see the quality of those actors though. They make a pretty shitty movie tolerable. Similar to the beer you're drinking, Jared, is that correct?
Yeah. Jean Straw
You're
Van
drinking
Dam.
the Straw Van Dam.
Let me tell you, the beer is tolerable.
Does it have some kick to it?
It does have a bit of kick, actually. Nice little strawberry kick. It's like Van Dam's just put a couple of strawberries on his feet and kicked me right in the mush with them.
And then I finalised my geriatric situation with Heartbreak Ridge. Does anyone remember Heartbreak Ridge?
Sort of. I don't think I saw it. Yeah, I didn't see it.
I haven't seen it either.
I saw it many, many years ago, and I laughed my ass off at it. It's piss funny. I don't think it's meant to be.
Okay.
But it has some very funny moments in it.
Right,
I got off that. I went to Zombieland.
Yep.
Just the original.
Yep.
For some reason, that movie does not sit for me at all.
It doesn't hit with you, does it?
Not at all. The best part of it is the end where Bill Murray turns up. When the credits
rolled. That was the...
Well, not quite. Bill Murray turns up and then the whole fight in the fun park. which I thought was pretty cool. They did some good things. But to me, it's a real hodgepodge of other better zombie films. Quite
fair
frankly.
enough. I've actually got Double Tap there to watch, but I held off to watch the original as well. So I'll be getting through that very shortly.
Yeah, I was saying to a mate of mine, he was going, Zombieland, best zombie movie ever. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Have you seen any zombie films?
I did like it, but it's not the best one.
I said to him, Dust Till Dawn, mate. I would watch Dust Till Dawn any day, and it's a vampire film, but it's the same sort of conceit type of road movie type of thing. I'd have that any day over this. I watched John Wick.
Shaun of the Dead's probably funnier.
Shaun of the Dead, yeah. Shaun of the Dead. John Wick.
Yeah.
The original John Wick. I'm going to punch through the other two as well.
Well, wait till you haven't seen 3 yet, have you?
No, I still haven't seen 3.
wait until 3 hits you, mate.
I got into that. That was good.
Yeah. It's like it sets your fucking seat on fire when you're watching it. I loved it.
Because the first one is just gold.
Yeah.
Like, it's such a simple idea, but it's just so well done.
Number 4 in the
and
works.
And I love
too.
that bloke
Exciting.
telling the... What was that, Matty?
Number 4's in the works too. Exciting times.
Yeah. I love the bloke as he, the crime boss, as he tells the story about how he took out a couple of blokes with a pencil, and then he just looks at his son and goes, "A fucking pencil."
He's a ghost. He's a ghost in the first one. You don't know what he's done, where he's come from, can be killed.
Yeah,
it's so good.
Yeah, I do love that with the fucking pencil.
After going through all those, I went to a couple of docos. I rewatched Electric Boogaloo.
Oh, yeah.
Wild Untold Story of Cannon Films.
Yep.
Subsequently, I sent you a message, didn't I, Jared, saying we need to watch Invasion USA.
Yeah, you've added a couple to our coming soon list.
I watched Athlete A on Netflix. It's all about the US gymnastics team and that doctor that got done for sexual assault. It was okay as far as true crime sort of docos go.
Yeah. Any chance of you watching an uplifting real life story anytime soon? Or
well, where are they? Where are they, mate? Because Netflix wallows in this stuff.
Yeah, you're right. Netflix really does like to plumb the depths like that.
I'll tell you what, mate. I'll tell you about plumbing the depths with Netflix. Unsolved Mysteries.
I watched some.
Fucking terrible, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I didn't think it was terrible. The thing with
There's
this
nothing
is,
in it. Like,
no, the
you
thing
need
with
some
this
Robbie
is,
Stack, mate.
Well, they've got the theme. The theme's still there, but yeah, no Robbie Stack except for that little sort of silhouette of him at the start. But
yeah,
the thing, the problem with this is though, I mean, the cases are compelling, but they're long term, right? You never the impact of these is going to be felt if they solve one. Which they did with the original Unsolved Mysteries. They solved a few cases. So if that pans out, then it takes on a whole new sort of relevance. But as it stands, because they're fresh, it's just sort of like there's no resolution. So it's very unsatisfying in some ways. Yeah,
but my problem with it was they seem to be extremely under investigated or... whether or not under-investigated, but just not given the details not there. Like, did you see the first case?
Yes, I did.
About the guy who fell off the roof?
Yeah.
Really, really interesting, compelling. Mm-hmm. I'm thinking, what happened? There's a note fucking taped behind his computer.
Yeah.
And not one person asks the question, why the fuck would you tape this behind your computer? They don't go into it. They just kind of cook up this bullshit about how he was into Freemasons. But
see, I don't know if this is the thing. They didn't cook it up because they don't know. That's the idea of the show. Nobody knows. And I think that one was really, I mean, from the intro, from the opening of the episode, you could see which party they were trying to possibly get some pressure on.
Exactly.
So...
But I just felt that they were all very underdeveloped. It seemed to be kind of pretty poor journalism and pretty poor documentary filmmaking, honestly. I skipped several of them in the middle because I was just like, this is shit.
Yeah, so look, I don't know.
I went to the last case, which I found interesting.
You might be somewhat desensitized to the Netflix.
I think
true
it's because
crime
the
stuff.
quality's not there.
Well,
That's part of it.
the quality's not quite there, but I mean, the idea of this is to get it done relatively cheap.
Yeah.
And
That's if they certainly go into a new series of them.
If they get any longevity out of them, they're going to make new episodes and things like that. I think that's where it's... But the problem for me is the original Unsolved Mysteries, right? They chucked 3 or 4 cases into one episode.
Exactly.
And there was a hefty helping of Bigfoot and fucking aliens and shit. I want some more of that.
I know. It was part true crime, part National Enquirer. And I love that shit.
All to the tones of Robert Stack. Like you can't.
And Stack would be giving it to you. Like it was the most serious thing on earth.
Yeah.
He'd be like
Stack
talking
would be sitting
about
there
Bigfoot
going, this
and
man
stuff.
wandered into his backyard. What did he see? And like just sort of take you through the whole story. That's what was missing. Let me tell you, the quality is on par, but there was no Robbie Stack and no Bigfoot. That's all that's missing. All the Bigfoot's been taken up by Amazon Prime.
I just feel you needed a host. Go back to the format.
Yeah, I think so.
Go to the format, because I can tell you right now, if you'd have given me 10 minutes of any of those cases, I'd have been very happy.
Yeah, I think
I
you're
don't
right.
want 50 minutes of some bullshit that goes on, like...
Yeah, that was probably my issue. It was a little bit long.
That's underdeveloped.
Yeah, and I feel like Netflix took the property and sort of squeezed their model into it. I mean, it's paint by numbers for a bunch of those ones we've seen recently.
Yeah. And I'm not, and I don't want to sound like I'm being sort of flippant to the victims and all that sort of stuff. No. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it just feels like they didn't get their bang for their buck.
Yeah.
Like it's just not deeply enough looked at. And to me, if you're going to give me...
I know Bigfoot's sitting in his cave going, where's my bang for buck here? Where's my love? I used to get on weekly and now I can't even get a crumb.
But you know what I mean? Like, if you've got that on a Robbie Stack, three cases in an episode.
Yeah, it's a good episode.
I think you're probably getting a little bit more there.
Yeah.
Which sounds strange because you're cutting it down, but you're getting the facts boiled down to 10 minutes. You've got to be smart.
But also when it's 3 cases, it actually feels like, okay, they're actually putting some volume out here of things they're trying to solve. Whereas when Netflix spends that much time on 6 cases, that, as you said, some of them seem like they had been investigated, but probably not as well as they should have been. It feels like perhaps, Netflix has taken the property and trying to make the cash off it rather than actually having that angle of there's something we're trying to do here as well.
Yeah, I just get this feeling that this won't stick.
I feel like that taps in. I was going to talk about the Cops podcast. There's one, Chasing Cops, and they talk about how when Cops was on, it was pretty much basically they were they'd send out the reporter with a cop for 5 days, and if you didn't get a story, then that was it. They'd disappear. But it ended up leading to like more problems in terms of like corruption and that sort of stuff. But they were just trying to get a show out as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, and I can understand like what Netflix is trying to do. You got to get new content out.
Well, that's right. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it's about. They're looking to drive subscribers, and so then me asking for them to actually be concerned about whether the cases are solved or not is probably not their. That's not what they're worried about. They hope that happens so they can make a follow-up episode. Is really.
I guess my thing is stick to the formula. I know that people would say Unsolved Mysteries was kind of like the first of this type, and that's totally true. But there'd be a following for a very, very similar formula, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
If you took a new host, and they did it in the 90s, because they ended up having, or it might have been the early 2000s. I think Amazon Prime can tell you, Jared, but I think they had
the old
Farina.
ones are on there. Yeah, the old Unsolved Mysteries are on there, and there was another host. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's an episode that essentially Jeepers Creepers ripped off the start of the movie when they're driving. It looks fucking identical.
Really?
And the case was very similar, what the guy was doing. Like, the car that drove past and saw someone doing something like what the Creepers doing in Jeepers Creepers. Like, it's... I didn't know about it until recently, but, yeah. One to look into if you haven't seen that.
Yep. But that's me.
All right. I'll go next to go pretty briefly. I don't have a whole lot. So, Adam, I spoke to you about this previously, but I held out on going for another streaming service after Channel 10 tried to fucking bend us all over and expect us to pay a free-to-air network, expecting us to now pay for their streaming. So I held off on doing that to watch The Twilight Zone, and I gave my money to JB Hi-Fi and took the Blu-rays home for The Twilight Zone.
So you bought the season?
So I bought the season. I'd actually seen the first episode. I rewatched it. The first episode I find really interesting.
Is that the one with the comedian?
Yeah. The whole conceit of the comedian and when they start putting their personal life into the material, when it sort of blurs the lines between, jokes and what it does to them and all that sort of stuff. And I've watched the remake of what's his name?
On a plane.
Yeah. It was okay. So far, I haven't seen any that would stand next to some of the classics in the original series, but I'll punch on, and I like that sort of format of TV, so I'll stick with it.
Yeah.
I got onto The Vast of Night, which is one that got a little bit of buzz and showed up on Amazon Prime. It's sort of a little alien or you sort of UFO sort of picture set in the 50s, I think it is. 50s or 60s, I can't remember exactly. I think it was the 50s, but yeah, check it out if you get the chance. It's really interesting in terms of the way that they've made the movie. There's some really kind of innovative techniques. There's portions where, there's a girl that works on a switchboard and she's talking to a guy on the phone, and they stick with a shot of her for it must be about 5 minutes plus without moving while the guy's telling the story to get the reactions, and rather than sort of manufacture it, they just rely on the actor to kind of deliver it, and it's fucking good. There's another shot where they essentially go through the entire town, which there's just some really innovative techniques, some good acting performances. I would say to check it out. I wasn't I'm still kind of here nor there on the ending, still sort of processing it, but I really enjoyed the movie. I too got onto a Blumhouse one that I hadn't seen, Adam. I watched Ma. Yeah,
I had a bit of interest in this.
What's that one about?
So Ma's the one about the kids who are. There's a woman in the town that buys them alcohol, and then she says, "I don't want you guys sort of out and about getting in trouble, so you can come to my basement and party there as much as you want, just so you're safe." And then she kind of starts sort of ingratiating herself amongst the group and sending messages out and joining the parties and things like that. And it's pretty predictable. It's got a decent enough premise, but it's very predictable, and really, aside from Octavia Spencer, there's not a hell of a lot going for it.
I heard that her performance was good, but the rest of it was a bit...
Yeah, pretty much. Got back onto Schitt's Creek, Adam. Look,
Schitt's Creek?
I was an early adopter on Netflix of Schitt's Creek, and I feel like, I reckon it's a gem. I'm up to the 5th season now. There's only one more season to go. I love it. Eugene Levy and Dan Levy, just absolutely brilliant. And Catherine O'Hara is just fucking awesome. Some of the shit she
Any show that calls a bloke Roland... Is it Roland Shit?
Yeah, Roland Shit is the man.
Eugene Levy's eyebrows can out me, so...
And... Roland Shit is Chris Elliott. Obviously a few laughs to be had there.
Yeah.
I got onto the first episode of season 2, What We Do in the Shadows. Obviously, I loved the first season of that. Opening episode was all right, a few laughs, plenty of Matt Berry giving shit,
love that
kind of leaving it hanging. Yeah, I'm still. They didn't do anything that's going to push me away from it. I'm still well and truly in on that one. I watched The Platform on Netflix.
The Platform. Oh, yeah. I heard about this.
It's one that's sort of set in a prison where there's 2 people on each level, and the food gets put on a platform at the top, and then the people at the top get to eat for a couple of minutes, and then the platform moves down. And so by the end of it, people are fighting for scraps of food and whatever. Look, it's pretty upfront with some social commentary about classes and things like that. But it was an interesting watch. I didn't love it, but it was interesting enough and had some ideas that were pretty cool. I think it was just a bit too upfront with the messages, I guess. I watched Underwater.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was actually all right. It was pretty good, other than TJ Miller, who, aside from seeming to be a shit bloke, can be very grating on screen as well. I feel like it was pretty good. Kristen Stewart was fine. I'm also a big Jessica Henwick fan. She was in it, and I thought she delivered a pretty good performance too. But yeah, it was quite good. I didn't have high expectations, but I really enjoyed it. I got onto Scoob, the Scooby-Doo prequel. Just, I think
I've seen that being advertised.
Yeah, I think my kids are it's just sort of gateway to getting the kids into horror as well.
And how was it in terms of sort of, because it's got a pretty heavy duty voice cast, hasn't it?
Yeah, it was a bit ordinary. It had there was jokes that the kids were laughing very, very heavily at, and a couple of characters that were obviously directed at kids, kind of like Minions, but sort of robot type characters that the kids kind of liked. But there wasn't. Look, it wasn't much for me. For some reason, I also watched Spies Like Us, which I must say
it has got a couple of classic lines.
Yeah, there's a couple of good ones, but I must say every Chevy Chase picture I've watched recently shows him just being a fucking womanising asshole, and I feel like some of that is very true to life. I mean, it's pretty well documented that he's an asshole, so the womanising part at the peak of his fame doesn't seem like much of a stretch. But yeah, look, it had a few laughs in it. And the last one I watched,
the best bit of that is that they're trying to cheat on the test.
Oh yeah,
the fake arm and
fake
using the eye patch.
Yeah, that was pretty good actually. The last one I watched is, in the spirit of what we're covering tonight, I actually checked out the 30 for 30 Be Water.
Oh, yeah.
The Bruce Lee one. It wasn't bad. It did a pretty good job of placing him within kind of the racial issues that were of the time and sort of, America's representation of Asian cultures on screen and whatnot. So, yeah, I don't think for people who were really into Bruce Lee that it's going to give you too much about the movies. Yeah. But it was good to sort of place it in that context that hadn't necessarily been explored heavily on film before, and that was me.
All right, Matty.
All right, it's been a while. My list's still not as big as your weekly list, but anyway, I got through Tiger King. I loved, absolutely loved.
Yeah, I thought you'd love that.
Yeah, so good. The just the fact that they're all different kinds of cult leaders, pretty much.
Yeah,
cracked me up. And that guy was so much like Will Ferrell, like Mugatu, the guy with the ponytail. He even talked like him.
Don Hansel.
Loved it.
Yeah,
loved it.
What
horrible people they all are.
I know.
The best part of the entire documentary series.
Oh, Jesus.
Was the bloke with Tiger King's country music, man.
Oh, yeah, the funeral.
Absolute magic.
Abhorrent.
The funeral was so bad. The funeral was my favourite. No question. Like, seeing a bloke in a eulogy talking about balls in his face was one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life.
The guy's mum was there. And then cringing.
Followed it up by lip syncing to one of his own songs. One of his own / someone else's songs.
But I'd watched the Louis Theroux interview that he was on. I was like, hey, wait a sec, that's the bloke in the and I was just bizarre because he was sitting there talking about how much he'd like to kill her in that interview. Like,
yeah.
So it was just.
Is he?
Yeah, he was.
I didn't know he was in.
He was
Louis Theroux had spoken to him.
Yeah. He does a thing on animals, on dangerous,
dangerous animals.
Yeah, there's women with like orangutans and stuff. Like there's a woman with a. What's she got? She's got a pet monkey, and he's like, Louis asking, "Are we safe?" And then it just smashes a window like. Just bizarre. These people and they have these monkeys like babies.
I think the answer to that question is no. We're not safe.
Yeah. I watched Last Dance. Loved it. Just some of the side stuff. Like I think same as you guys. Like just watching it. Like I knew what was coming up, but I was still loving like just the memories of it and putting things in place and even just some of the little like Ron Harper talking about not getting the defensive assignment on Jordan, that sort of stuff was pretty funny. Yeah. And then seeing
Mark Price came out and said, I don't know what he was talking about.
Yeah.
Like, Mark Price was kind of like, I don't remember any reason why Ron Harper was wanted to be on him, anything like that.
And we forget that Craig Elo had a fucking good game.
Yeah, that's
like
right.
He nearly won him the game. A couple of
we also forget, if you watch that, Elo is right there.
Yeah, he gets a hand up.
It's not, he didn't lose him. He just had too much hang time for the bloke.
Yeah, that's right. Which and no one could have defended it.
Yeah,
I loved watching that whole thing. Just thinking. Remembering back to that was when I sort of got into basketball and NBA basketball and thinking I can't back the Bulls, but man, it's fun watching him pull it out at the end. Like they weren't, and it didn't even feel like in the moment they were necessarily gonna win every single game, but he did. He consistently pulled them up above that level.
Yeah. I wish we were just a little bit older so we could have got in the Chicago travelling cocaine circus days. That sounded like a lot of fun.
Yeah. I wish Twitter was around when that was happening. Oh my God. It would have been so good. I got onto the doco as well, Cue Ball, which I don't know if Gibbo's talked about it. I'm pretty sure he has, but it's San Quentin basketball program, so in the prison there.
Oh yeah.
And it's loving that. Some of the like Golden State Warriors came in, and like it has Sam Jones, the guy who runs the place, is out of a separate podcast. So it's interesting hearing about the reform and in the prison system and what they're trying to do, and just seeing it through that basketball. Anytime they do one of those things, that something that you love, but the people involved have a shady past, but it is a place where people can come together. That was a good doco. It was worth watching.
Yeah,
I got Black Klansman.
Yeah,
that was good. That was a solid movie. Very topical. Uncut Gems, loved it.
Oh, yeah, Uncut Gems.
You got to see it. It's got a lot of synthesizer.
Oh, yeah.
You'll love it too.
Everyone else has watched it. I haven't watched it yet.
It was great.
That was really, really good.
And it's the first time I've ever said Adam Sandler was fantastic.
Yeah.
It played to his strengths, but he also gave the character a bit of nuance, and that's the work of the directors, mate. You know,
and the
script obviously being a strong script.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's what I was going to say. The script doesn't necessarily go where you expect it, and it pulls some emotion out. Creates some very awkward situations for Adam Sandler's character. So I love that. The Apostle, the horror movie, The Apostle.
Yep,
I really enjoyed that. I hadn't seen Wicker Man, so I didn't really have anything to compare it to, but. Yeah, it's pretty much Children of the Corn on steroids. Like
it was pretty messed up.
Yeah,
things that stuck with me.
I liked it. Yeah, I started a doco series called Losers as well on Netflix, which I got through that.
Oh yeah, I've seen a bit of that.
Yeah.
Did you see the one with the dog that bit the bloke? Soccer game.
I've just got through the first episode. So the boxer whose dad was just way too harsh on him.
Yeah, there's some interesting stuff on there. I believe.
I watched the Eurovision. Will Ferrell.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
That's not going to date well. That had so much potential. Man, it's a turd sandwich. But it's just
Will Ferrell hasn't been funny in about 5 years, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, it's just got aspects of his other movies. Like his was good in what's the one in the school where he's the used car dealer.
Yeah. Kenny Powers.
Yeah, Kenny Powers.
Yeah, he was good.
He's so good in that. And that's just where he's at his best, you know, like freestyling. But I think they tried to. It's just such a Hollywood. Like you'd seen the same plot 15 times. It was just the worst.
Can I just ask, what is Rachel McAdams doing in such a movie? She is well and truly above that kind of poop.
Yeah, she does all right in it.
I'm not saying she's not capable.
She's
very
just
capable.
Meant to be the accent, though, so it's just not funny.
But, sometimes, Adam, you know what it's like, on a work day, and sometimes you get offered some job that's not going to be super fulfilling or super great, but it's going to be a cushy day, and you say, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah, I think that's probably what it is.
Everyone just took the paycheck, maybe. I don't know.
That's right.
Because, she's got really good comedic timing. Like, you watch that Game Night.
Oh, Game Night's awesome.
She was really good with Jason Bateman. And she's such a good actress, but I just think to myself, you're spot on. Someone said, listen, have you got...
That scene where the pair of them are vomiting had me in fucking stitches.
Someone said, have you got a few weeks in your schedule? Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
I got into Jeffrey Epstein, what a horrible person. That guy...
More feel-good fare?
Yeah. That's unbelievable what he got away with.
That's what I've yet to plumb.
No, I haven't gone there yet.
There's too many of these people in existence. It's pretty scary.
I'm assuming it's not a pleasant... There's some pretty untidy shit in there, isn't there?
Oh, absolutely. Just that whole control and abuse, and people just got sucked into that world, and what do you do about it? You can't do anything about it because they've got the power and the authority.
Money breeds power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some people take it to some very, very untidy places.
Absolutely. We watched Unorthodox, which I think Gibbo said he'd seen. So it was about the Orthodox Jews and they're creating an art career. That was okay. That wasn't too bad. White Lines, which is...
Can I just say, when Gibbo was talking about it, he said it was a series about Greek Orthodox.
Yeah, I know. I heard that. Yeah, thanks, mate. We're not that repressed. Come on. I know I worked a lot as a kid, but...
That did make me laugh. Yeah.
I shave my head. I got into White Lines, which was like a murder mystery one. That was okay. That was a bit paint by numbers as we talk about. Last Action Hero I saw. That was pretty good. I didn't mind that.
Yeah.
Ghost. We've got a bit of Patrick Swayze in there.
Oh, Ghost.
And I watched Roadhouse for the first time. So
what an experience.
What a treat. That
For
was
the
great.
first time? You should be ashamed of yourself.
Yeah, I know, right? But the
Well, this is what happens when you're Greek Orthodox. You don't get to watch these things when you're younger. So.
I've said it before. I was too busy watching Highlander again. Which they're remaking.
Yes, I know. Can't wait.
We got on to... What else did we watch? I watched a lot of Afterlife as well, which I'm big Gervais fan. Maybe not necessarily.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
Sometimes the way he acts and maybe not so much, but that show is top quality, top shelf. I watched a bit of Chappelle, the Mark Twain Award, where it was a bit of a tribute to him.
Yeah.
And
any good?
Yeah, really good.
He did a set, didn't he?
Sorry?
He does a set, doesn't he, in that?
He does, yeah. But
it's about 25 minutes or something, isn't it?
The best one's Neil, the guy who helped him write Chappelle's show. He just roasts him. It's so funny to watch. And himself, actually. But he's very good in that. And some of his stand-up as well. He's just so funny. I don't know.
He is. He's a funny man.
The fact that he can refer to Hillary Clinton as a bitch and and make you laugh about it is so good.
Yeah.
It's talking about how she lost the election and he goes, she missed the dunk. Like, it just makes it so simple. I love it.
He does.
We watched Safe. And the same guys made The Stranger, which is just like a couple of murder mystery things as well. So it has a guy that plays Dexter in it. And
oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're okay. They weren't too bad.
Yep.
We watched United States of Tara, which the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Went through like 4 seasons of that.
Yeah.
Which was entertaining. Tony Collette's solid.
Yeah.
Some of it you sort of doesn't really fit in with my understanding of the mental illness.
No.
But you sort of give it a pass and go, they're making a show, so that's all right.
Yeah.
I watched Parasite, Korean black comedy. That was great. Yeah, so funny.
Yeah, I've heard it's good. Yeah. Obviously won Best Picture too, so I haven't checked it out yet. But
it's worth a look. It's awkward, but hilarious.
That's why we haven't checked it out, Jack.
I didn't know what it was about, so I just started watching, and the family that it's centered around are hilarious. They just each of them is just as funny as the rest.
I saw it was critically praised and won Best Picture, and I thought, that'll go over my
head. Leave that till later.
Nah, it's pretty good.
Unsolved Mysteries from 1990.
The Bigfoot special. Excellent.
You were like, I'll get to this later. What's on Amazon Prime?
You know me so well, Adam.
I got into Halloween 4.
Ooh.
Halloween 4?
Yeah.
What did you think?
I didn't mind it.
Hey, you're coming around, Matty.
I was like, after 3, I was a bit I was like, I'm not investing any more time in this.
Oh, how could you not? With Tommy Atkins' bristling mustache kind of commanding the screen.
But 4 was good. It ended really, really well. Like the main...
4's got its warts.
The main
when you actually look...
Sorry, go for it.
When you actually look closely at 4, it's got its warts, because I really loved it when I first saw it.
Yeah.
You look at it a bit more closely and it's got problems, but a lot of people say, it's boring and it's this and it's that. You know what? As far as Halloween films go, it is an absolute top 2 or 3.
He loves to shove his thumb under people's skin in that.
Yeah.
That's a good movie.
Rip people's faces off. And,
That's also got one of my favourites in the series with the chick that's getting hit on and turns around and says, "Fuck off, lead." That's what that always gets a laugh out of me.
That's right. They're pooling their dollars so he can have a go.
Who's the old mate to John Gielgud? What's his name though?
Donald Pleasance.
Donald Pleasance. Yeah. He goes off again. He does the same.
Yeah.
Reprises the same yelling role. And,
the best part of the entire movie, the vigilante group. Shit, Earl. It's Ted Hollister. Just fucking blasted this bloke.
We'll give you the tip, Matty. Just skip the next two for your own
all right.
benefit.
For my own fine sanity.
Come back with H2O.
All right.
Actually, no, maybe watch part 6 and see what you make of it.
Sounds arty.
No one else has been able to make anything out of it as of yet.
Oh, my God.
Maybe you can come up with something.
I watched the second season of The Other Guy, which is Matt O'Kine.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's solid. It's really funny. It's like that same sort of the vibe as Afterlife, but like the same style of comedy, but a little bit lighter. But that was really good. And I got to It 2 as well, finally, which is
It Chapter 2?
Yeah, It Chapter 2, which I'm sure we'll talk about at a later date. But
yes.
Lock that one in.
Yeah, but that's my list.
It's definitely on our schedule. That's you, mate?
That's me, yeah.
Didn't happen
That's
to
a
catch
lockdown. That's a lockdown. That's all I can remember from my lockdown anyway.
Didn't happen to catch Brain Scan by any chance?
I did not get any Trickster.
No.
But, and I look, and I was kind of
But you're liberally throwing around sausage dick recently, I've heard.
I love a sausage dick reference these days. And even though Jad's assured me that I really need to watch The Fanatic, I don't think I can do it.
It was a must watch.
Look, anybody who's a real Travolta fan needs to see him dressed up as an English Bobby.
I think I watched the ad for it, and I was like, can I do this to myself?
Yes, I think you can. It gives you so much in return.
You should. It's not about can. You should.
I'll report back, guys. I'll report back.
Yeah, okay. All right, let's take a break. Here's the trailer for 1993's Dragon, the Bruce Lee story.
Birth certificate. Bruce Lee. It sounded very American.
I'm going to America. French fries. Sky's the limit, that's what they say.
Not a Chinaman's chance. They say that too.
I'm different.
You kind don't understand English. You guys killed my dad in Korea. You think I'm happy to see you, my Jim?
Don't touch me.
Or what?
Or I'll touch you back.
You're not really an American.
This guy Lee, he's awfully Oriental.
He's playing Oriental.
And you can't change people with your fists.
You kiss him. Kiss him. At least.
He defied tradition.
I'd like to take some lessons. I'd like to give them. Now, you know I'm not Chinese. I've noticed that.
You've been charged with violating the martial arts code.
This is the first Bruce Lee Kung Fu Institute.
We do not teach our secrets to the enemy.
I'll teach whoever wants to learn. Some of them chop socky flick, man.
He began a revolution.
I have developed a way of fighting with no fixed positions.
And became a leader.
You are ordered to stop teaching.
You die in Hong Kong. I've seen it.
Dragon, the Bruce Lee story from 1993, directed by Rob Cohen, who directed The Fast and the Furious and Triple X. Produced by Rafaela De Laurentiis, who produced Conan the Barbarian and its lesser cousin, Cole the Conqueror. Who I believe starred noted good bloke Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah.
Hercules.
Yeah. Great bloke. Should follow him on Twitter.
Screenplay is by Rob Cohen, Edward Kamara, who wrote Enemy Mine, and John Raffo, who wrote Johnny Skid Marks, which I think is a film about a bloke shitting himself.
I'd watch it.
And
We've probably seen it, yeah.
And Jared, another one that I feel we should slip onto the list, The Relic.
Oh,
You
yeah.
remember The Relic?
Yeah, I do remember The Relic.
Can't find it anywhere.
Yeah, I mean,
can't find it anywhere.
It's a
well,
relic.
you know, why would you, you buy 5 streaming services just so you can avoid any movie made in the fucking 1990s, seemingly.
Yeah, so it would seem. And the script is actually based on the book by Robert Klaus and Linda Lee Caldwell, which is obviously Bruce Lee's wife. It stars Jason Scott Lee as Bruce Lee, Lauren Holly as Linda Lee, and Robert Wagner as Bill Krieger. The budget was $14 million, and the box office was $63 million worldwide. And the film is dedicated to the memory of Bruce Lee's son, Brandon. All right. Matty, because you're back and you have seen this movie many, many times, give us your thoughts, mate.
Look, I really like this movie. I was obviously coming into it with a bit of nostalgia. It definitely skips over on some of the facts and some of the depth and maybe the real Bruce Lee. But as far as the film goes, it's entertaining. The action's good fun. There's nut shots aplenty, so I was very happy watching it. And I hit it out at about a 3.5 for that one.
Nice. Jared, you
Yeah.
also were an exponent of this one.
Yeah, I've seen it a number of times. It's another one that seemed to be on TV every fortnight when we were younger. I reckon I've seen it in the 10 to 20 times range in that period. But yeah, I agree with Matty. Like, it plays fast and loose with the facts. Like, I mean, saying it's based on that book is generous, I would think. But yeah, as a movie, it's a rollicking good time. I had a great fun with it. Like, it's got some really nifty sort of fight sequences and some solid performances, mostly. And yeah, I'm a 3.5 as well. I was expecting to go back and see a few more of the warts, but I had a great time with it.
Yep. 3.5?
Yep.
Right. I had never seen this film prior to today, and I was thoroughly impressed. I also give it 3.5. It's a really solid biopic in inverted commas, because as you guys have pointed out, I think they sort of play with the timeline and they tend to make things up a little bit here and there. But overall, I really like the fight scenes. I think the two leads are actually pretty good, and it works. Their chemistry is okay. My only issue with the film is that it kind of it skips over certain portions really quickly. They use a lot of montages, some of which are great. I think they work well, but they skip a lot of interesting stuff about the man, which ultimately, I mean, the guy is such an interesting guy. I mean, you could have had 2 movies about him.
Yeah, could have been quite lengthy.
Yeah, but overall, it's very enjoyable, and I think it does reasonable justice to the bloke.
Yeah. I feel like you could call it like a tribute pick more than a biopic, because it's definitely holding him up on the pedestal and
I mean, it's not
talking
quite
about his achievements and the difficult time he had getting around.
It's not quite Bruceploitation work, but it's shares some sort of similarity in that it is sort of, paying, as you said, it's paying tribute and kind of bowing down to the bloke's legacy rather than kind of telling the full story, I guess.
Yeah. And that's a pretty fair call, Matty. Like that, it is a biopic, kind of, but I think, it's kind of like shining a light on this bloke as a certain way, and sort of kind of pushing away from some of the other aspects. But in saying that, it does it in a really entertaining fashion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is what I liked about it. I mean, just to kick off the likes, I actually think Jason Scott Lee is quite good.
Yeah, I thought he was excellent.
In the role.
There's a couple of times when he sort of gets a little over the top with the delivery and whatnot, but he's got the mannerisms, and if you've seen, Bruce Lee in the movies and interviews and stuff like that, he did deliver. He had a quirky way of sort of delivering his lines and the little ticks and everything. I think he nailed those. I thought he did a really good job.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a martial artist.
Yeah, I think he trained for 8 months, I think.
Yeah. So they brought him in and thought, we'll bring in an actor who we can teach to do martial arts instead of a martial artist that we have to teach to act. It's not going to work that way, and I think it was a really good choice. One of the trivia things that I was looking at was saying they were initially talking about Brandon Lee playing.
Yeah.
But
I think he knocked it back, didn't he?
Well, they also said he doesn't look closely enough to his father.
Yeah.
In a sense of the physical likeness.
I think he was trying to make his own path anyway, not necessarily as...
I think he did knock it back too. Like, I think they talked about doing it and then he kind of said, well, I'm not interested.
Mm. It's a shame because he would have had both down. He would have had the acting and the Jeet Kune Do down. Yeah.
And he, I think he died just before it was completed.
Yeah. That's going to get in the way.
Mm. So, I think he is really good, Jason Scott Lee. I think it's actually a pretty good choice. I think Lauren Holly is also a nice presence on screen, and I think the two of them work pretty well together.
Yeah, I thought she was fine, bar a couple of sequences that I'll talk about later. But yeah, for the most part, she does.
There are a couple of moments. She also kind of gets pushed to the side as the film goes along.
Yeah,
yeah.
Even though they're trying to sort of set a love story in there, that kind of gets pushed away.
Mm.
But overall, I think they're both pretty good. This stuff's kind of it's interesting that because initially I was thinking, because I heard about the whole through line about the warrior and the demon, you know, and the supernatural side that his father was always talking about.
Yep.
And initially I was thinking that sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
But I think they did it. I think they did it reasonably well.
Mm.
Personally, I found it quite interesting, the whole through line about and the superstitions from his culture and all that sort of stuff. I found that kind of interesting, and they kind of slipped it in there a couple of times in the right places for me.
Yeah, I don't think they overdid it either. It just popped up a couple of times, and then you'd see certain sequences where the winds would be kicking up and things like that, and they just kind of kept it in the background as that sort of looming threat. But yeah, as you said, when you hear that explanation, you just think to yourself, what? Like, it sounds just ridiculous. And really, it is a bit ridiculous. But because they've gotten away with sort of making a Bruce Lee film rather than kind of the biopic of Bruce Lee, it sort of works. And I think the positive for them is I don't think you could do this with too many people. I don't think you could have played as sort of fast and loose with the facts and put a storyline like this in. But with Bruce Lee, it feels like it kind of fits because of the style of movies he made and the fact that the guy himself kind of did have these kind of mythical legends about him and what would happen to him on movie sets and, people trying to fight him and things like that. So I think that's why they, you give it a bit of a pass for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It sort of fits.
I actually found that an intriguing and quite useful device.
Yeah, it was a nice little way to personify the fears of his, father and himself, and passing that demon down from generations and whatever.
Mm.
Exactly, and I think that there's a fantastic shot when you first see it. When he's a kid, and he run. Oh, no, he's not a kid, is he? I think he might be a teen. He runs into an alley.
Yeah.
And all the smoke comes out, and then you just see the warrior standing there with backlit.
Yep.
In silhouette. And they kept using that throughout. I thought it was a really, really cool way of it was a really striking kind of shot.
Yeah.
It was
I believe that's Sven Ollie Thorson.
Yeah, I was going to say, can we give that a big like too, that it's Sven Ollie Thorson in the suit?
It's pretty satisfying that he actually got to kill somebody in the movie because it turned it into an action movie.
Yeah, yeah.
He got to choke him out. It was satisfying.
Yeah, it was.
Now, I mentioned the fight scenes. I really enjoyed pretty much all of them. I felt that they were shot in a way that conveyed kind of the style he would have on screen. It looked like they kind of been shot in the way of some of his films.
Yeah, it did, and the things that he was doing, like they evoked images like when his shirt gets ripped off and he's just got the black pants and whatever. It looked
breaking
like
the table in slow motion.
Yeah, and the sound effects that he was making and licking the blood and all that sort of stuff. They just looked like Bruce Lee movies, essentially, those fights.
Yeah,
and I mean, shit, we were like about 28 minutes in and we'd already had 3 stinks. 3 separate locations. The one in the kitchen involved a squirrel grin for the ages where the bloke's got him in the body.
That escalates quick. It's so good.
Quite frankly, who's working in that kitchen? I mean, you have sex with one waitress and they all want to bloody take a cleaver to your head.
Yeah. I think the HR, the owner takes on the HR role and says to the bloke that, starting all the fights, listen, mate, you've got to go. Here's your severance. Off you go.
I mean, you're right. There was a number of stinks in quick succession, probably to kind of, again, get us into the mood of Bruce Lee and his fighting skills and all that. And the first fight accomplishes that.
It's almost like a musical. Like they've got to bust into the big song, but it's just like, we're going to bust into the big fight now.
Yeah, it provided, like, even though the facts were, again, not they were using things that didn't actually happen. They were, again, sort of close to the mark in some instances. That apparently was sort of when before he came to America, he was getting in fights regularly and things like that, that he was a bit of a delinquent in some aspects. So, they take some of that and they put it into really kind of cinematic fight scenes, I guess.
And in fact, both of those first 2 fights reminded me a little bit of some of Jackie Chan's as well. A lot of, acrobatic sort of work, a bit of slapstick.
Yeah.
A little bit of humour thrown in, where he wears that guy's jacket and he's got him in it as well, and he's moving across the floor dancing.
And some imaginative...
I kind of dug that.
Imaginative things like, climbing up with, I don't know who's doing it, but climbing up on the bars between the buildings. And I really love the shot where the guys race out of the kitchen and they one by one whip the cleavers out of the board. Like, there was some really imaginative stuff in there that made it, as we've already said, they were super entertaining and just fun to watch.
The tongue was in cheek.
Yes.
But yet they do sort of go away from the tongue-in-cheek aspect as they move along.
Yeah. It actually...
Some of the fights are far more...
It takes his kind of cheeky side that you do see in some of the fights in the movies, that playful side. So yeah, it served its purpose there.
Yeah.
I also love the advice he gets from the restaurant owner when she gives him the cash. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Take the girl to a restaurant, the hotel. But I love that when she goes, at the end she says, I hope you spend it because I always need a good dishwasher.
That's right. Yeah, that stuff was quite cool. Look, I mentioned montages, and I'm going to come to some dislike work involving some of it. But there's a couple of times where the montages work out quite nicely. Even just the simple stuff like you see him set up the dojo and you see him with 4 students and then they do a punch and then it goes, the next shot is like 8 students and then it's 16. It's just showing that it's growing,
Yeah.
It's really quickly done, but it's nicely done.
Yep.
And there's another montage, I think it's the one where he's training. Like at the start, they quickly move ahead like 12 years. And all they do is show him training with his kung fu teacher, and then he just ages a couple of times, and they have that voiceover.
Yeah.
And then we're into it. We're at Bruce Lee,
Yeah.
We're at Bruce Lee as a 20-year-old.
We don't have time to watch him grow up. We've got 3 fights to get to in the first fucking 30 pages of the script.
We've got some heads to toe. We've got asses to kick. We haven't got time for this bullshit.
Yeah.
Rob Cullen's sitting there with the script, pulling pages out. Go get that.
Get that out of here. But that's an important event in Bruce's life. Nah, fuck that. We'll make something up.
We need to fit more nut shots in.
It reminded me a little bit of the way they did Conan growing up.
Yeah.
in Conan the Barbarian.
Yeah.
Where he's pushing
Walking
the wheel.
the wheel, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Same sort of technique, and it worked really well. I just think that those montages work to move the story ahead quickly and just showcase a few little things. Because in amongst them, you know, you kind of get the... You realise she's pregnant and sort of stuff like that. Again, pages that Rob Cohen had removed.
Yeah.
What happened to that? Oh, shit. Better put a montage together.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of the comedy too, Adam, you mentioned it in the fight scenes, but there's actually some really good lines that sort of bring out his personality as well. I'd completely forgotten the line when he's talking about, you know, Linda says, "What can you do with a philosophy major?" And he goes, "You can think deep thoughts about being unemployed." He gets a chance to deliver a couple of lines like that that actually really work.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, as a whole, there was a couple of instances where it allowed him to, as I said, you know, you see Bruce Lee in interviews and he is quite charming and drops some, you know, that cheeky little smile that he gets and stuff like that. They give him a chance to actually do that.
He's poised as well. Like.
Yeah.
And what's the line he gives to the bloke that meathead guy who comes over in the college and says something, "Don't put your hands on me," or something like that?
Oh, yeah. He says something like,
"I touch back."
Oh, yeah, you touch me, I touch back, or something like that. He gives that, he's got a couple of good instances like that where he gets. There's another one where, when the brother shows up on the set of The Big Boss and says, "I've sworn to kill you," and Bruce goes, "Swearing is easy." Like there's a couple of instances that really kind of underscore that element of his character.
Yeah, exactly. The warrior coming back in his apartment where he kind of gets his ass kicked by him. I kind of dug that because it sort of, once again, sort of said he couldn't defeat this thing at that time.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like this nagging kind of fear was there and it manifested itself and it still threw Bruce, kicked Bruce's ass, basically.
Yep.
And so I like that kind of, was just touching on the fact that he's not, you're not there yet, and there's nothing to live, like there was nothing to protect, because, as it comes back near the end, there are things that he's got to fight for.
Yeah. I think that fits with kind of the racial angle too. It's uneven throughout the movie, but I think looking back at it, that demon actually does sort of stand in a little bit for what's his identity, because he got sort of caught between two worlds in a way, and I think they do a decent job of that, but then sometimes it's a little bit clumsy, which again I'll talk a little bit about later on, the parts of it that I didn't like. But I actually think, looking back, that actually personifies some of those fears and insecurities about the race and whatnot.
Yeah. I really love the recreation of the Green Hornet.
Yeah.
That seems great.
Was so cool.
And also, to go along with that, I also love the recreation of The Big Boss. Like, I was a fan of The Big Boss. Like, that was one of the first Bruce Lee movies I watched, and I loved it. So that was that sort of still stands out as one of my favourite Bruce Lee movies. And so, seeing the recreation of both of those was just awesome. It was a nice little touch.
Yeah. And bringing back the brother who's, he kicked his ass. Was showcasing his style.
Yes.
He finally kicked his ass and kind of banished him after he had his back broken by him. Again, I think a lot of that's liberties taken. Is that not correct?
Apparently that fight
did happen.
took place, but he got hurt lifting weights.
Well, so it did happen. And it's funny because they actually mention the name of the guy that he fought with. So when the guy sits down, when he sits down to talk to the older guys at the table, they say someone and Wong Jack Man have expressed concerns. Wong Jack Man's actually the guy that he fought.
Right.
And I believe it was more around not necessarily teaching to non-Chinese people. I think it was more Bruce Lee's brashness, that he came into town and sort of was very open about criticising the traditional styles and some of the fighters. I think that's actually what happened. And so this Wong Jack Man character drove to his dojo, I think, and Linda was present. And supposedly Bruce Lee won and did say, I think he said, "Do you yield?" and the guy did, but they reckon it was not. It was a bit of a close fought affair.
Yeah.
Which to me, I mean, you didn't really need to change it, did you? That sounds pretty interesting as it is.
Yeah.
So it's funny when you look at that, you think this is fucking ridiculous, but that's one of the elements of the movie that actually contains some truth to it.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed all that sort of stuff. I thought that personally, I really loved that fight.
Yeah, that was
on
cool.
the set of the Big Boss. That was probably the best one, choreograph-wise.
Yeah, and they used all the ice and everything, which was present in the movie. Like, it was a nice little way to tie into the movie, but actually put together a really nice little fight sequence.
Yeah, and I thought it worked out really, really well. And the last big one for me is the fight with the demon at the end. I love the way how it segues out of Enter the Dragon.
Yeah.
And then he's suddenly fighting this warrior in this really, I mean, the set and everything is so cool. It's got a real sort of atmospheric and moody quality about it. The fight is quite good. It ramps up a bit of emotion because he sees his own headstone and Brandon's there and all that.
In hindsight, it's actually really sad when Brandon shows up and the demon kind of focuses on him. You're watching that just going, that's a little bit too close to home now after, the events that happened after that.
And that's kind of, Rob Cohen was actually saying that. It was kind of like, we were really uncertain what we were going to do with that.
Yeah.
Because after we, as we're prepping to release the film, his son dies, and this kind of has this real sort of ominous tone to it. But I also found it it had a sadness too, the fact that he kind of defeats this demon, but it didn't stop what came,
Yeah.
The whole idea of the superstition and the fact that, this demon's after him and everything, he still died young,
Yeah.
So it kind of has this kind of sadness to it.
Yeah, and also like
he was only 33, I think.
Yeah, 32, 33. I know, like it's also the fact that it finishes with kind of his great triumph and not showing any going into the death or anything. That was it. I think that was a really good choice, but also it had a tinge of sadness too because the shot at the end showing him sort of against like the sunset almost, and it was just like, it's nice that they went out like that, but then there's also, as you said, they just let the sadness of the actual story kind of be the impact that you walked away with at the end, I guess.
Yeah. And it's kind of wrapped up by her in a voiceover, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right at the end. That was it for likes for me. My apologies. What about you guys? Anything else?
Yeah, you go.
I was just gonna say I actually really loved the I beat any man in the room in 60 seconds too. Like, it was just sort of as soon as those guys came back, you knew sort of what was going to happen, and you knew he was going to do it within the 60 seconds. Like, but it was a cool little way to sort of bring it all back, and then show that he was kind of back to his feet after he gets kicked in the back, and all the noise cuts out, and then he kind of turns around, and you're like, oh yeah, it's on here. He's good. He's good to go. I like that little one, and also you mentioned the fight, Adam. The first fight between those two. I love the way it ended. The do you give up? Like, that was... Yeah. I mean, that was the one that we used to repeat in the schoolyard after every time they played it on whatever channel it was again for, the 10th time that year. We'd come back to school and we'd all be saying, do you give up? Do you give up?
I liked how they did they created the tension with some of the racist stuff. It was I guess at the beginning of the relationship is the only real tension you see between Bruce and Linda. So they did a very good job of tapping that in with the parent, with the mum, and I guess some of the real things that would have been said back then. Which I guess it's
pretty untidy, some of it.
Yeah, it seems. Yeah, absolutely. It seems very heavy-handed, but that's what it was like. Like, so
yeah,
I think it does a good job of reminding us of the tension that existed back then.
Yeah.
Another scene that I found pretty well played, also somewhat horrific, was the way he reacts to bloody Mickey Rooney playing a Chinese person in Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah, that was a good scene, actually.
What were people thinking back then?
I don't know.
Mickey Rooney's.
I was talking about this with my sister. She was talking about Murder by Death, and we're like, Peter Sellers's character in that did not age very well. The wise Chinese detective, like.
Yeah.
I love that movie, but I'm not a big fan of the way that's handled. And again, it's time and place, but still.
It was hilarious when we were kids, like.
Yeah. But it doesn't, it ages very badly. And the Mickey Rooney one, even worse so.
Yeah, I guess that's the thing, when we were kids, that was still, to a degree, it was kind of accepted, so we didn't know any better. Thankfully, we've grown up in a society that's changed a little bit, and we don't sort of, you don't get that to the same extent. But, I mean, it shows you how bad it must have been in a way to go to a cinema and have that as the representation of what your culture is. It must have just been fucking horrific for the bloke.
Yeah,
it's like Gibbo with his Greek Orthodox quip.
Yeah, the Greeks have never been represented fairly on screen. My big fat Greek wedding has done nothing for the culture.
Yeah.
Kalamata olives matter, guys. Come on.
Oh, man.
No, that's too far.
Okay, so on to the dislikes for me. Look, I didn't have a heap. I did not have a heap. There wasn't a lot I didn't like. Yes, we talked about them playing a little bit fast and loose with the timeline and the facts, but overall, it was, as you said before, Matty, it's a biopic, but it's kind of like a tribute pic.
Yeah.
So I let that go.
Basically, it fails as a bio because it just makes so many parts of it up. And I liken it to something like, well, not liken it, I compare it to something like Bohemian Rhapsody, because you got two people whose stories seemingly are super, super interesting, but you felt the need to make all this stuff up. But the Bruce Lee one works because, as we said, there was myth and legend surrounding the guy. It works like one of his movies, whereas to me, Bohemian Rhapsody played with stuff that you end up with a movie that's boring. Anyway,
it's the same problem as Bohemian Rhapsody, where they didn't cover some of the stuff that they probably should have. Like, well, you've got Chuck Norris saying he taught me that punching was important, or something. Like, there's like some real life things in there that would have been really entertaining to explore.
I mean, who didn't want to see Chuck Norris in this movie?
Absolutely.
I wanted to see Chuck.
I would love to have seen
just one sideburn.
Play Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
Magic.
And I mean,
but
really, if you're making a serious biopic, when someone walks in and says, Demon Samurai on page whatever, I reckon Sven Ole Thorsen would be great for the role. You say, hang on a minute, what are we doing here? But, yeah, it's kind of, in a way, it's more memorable for the fact that it did go that direction.
Yeah. I think it's what sets it apart from a lot of others, is it takes a slightly different tact with how it presents its story.
Yeah.
And that is a big plus, because the entertainment value is there. Because ultimately, that's what you're trying to do here. You're taking this really, really interesting guy, basically legendary guy, and you're making sure that it's got to entertain, and it does it well. Yes, as I said, a dislike would be it does play with the facts, but I let that go. My bigger issue is it skips over so much stuff because it's trying to condense all this stuff that this guy's doing, and he has such a intriguing and interesting life that they just have to skip over things. And they do it with a heap of montages, some of which are very successful, some of which are not.
I think they really overdo the romantic side of things as well. Like, a bloke that's that driven to get things done and go against the grain and achieve all the things that he did, there's going to be a lot more tension in the household than they displayed. He's got to have some of those really manic personality characteristics that he just, every time he spoke, it was like he was either speaking wisdom or was had a witty comeback or something like that. So I feel like they could have done a better job there.
For me, I'd read a review that kind of indicated that the romance stuff was too front. There was too much of it.
Yeah,
but
which in a way,
ultimately, when I look,
it was based on her book, so I guess you can see where they got some of that from. But
but ultimately, I didn't feel it was that intrusive.
They start her off.
I felt at the start it was where it needed to be because it played some of the racial things that happened as part of their relationship, right?
But also, that's how they met.
Yeah.
In class. So it all had some connection there.
But I think...
They start her off as such a strong character, though. She knows all the guys on the campus, and she's like sort of a bit of a renegade and going against the grain, and then she just turns into the good wife.
Yeah. Yeah, it does kind of drop her off, which is probably a dislike for me, is that there could have been some interesting things to explore there.
Yeah, definitely.
Not necessarily romance-based. It could have been other things.
Yeah, and I mean, let's not forget that he died on the couch of his mistress at her apartment. Like, there was other angles that took place there that I don't know whether they needed to be explored or but it just that comes into just leaving things out that might be worth exploring. And as Matty said, like in the doco that I watched, the Be Water doco, they were talking about. One guy just pretty much said, "Look, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. There was times when he was an asshole because he was so driven and so And they briefly touch on it when he's not home with the kids. But yeah, I think it's a little bit too interested maybe in being a really glowing representation.
Yeah, well, look, you draw a parallel with Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
easily. What we've just seen in The Last Dance.
Are you talking about The Last Dance, or are you talking about the Michael Jordan story with Ernie Hudson?
Ernie Hudson as Michael Jordan.
Okay, look, I was wrong. You don't have to keep bringing that up.
You were wrong. Ernie Hudson was only 50.
I believe the bloke that played Michael Jordan is also now in prison, so it's a really good cast of characters that we're talking about there.
But, drawing a parallel to Jordan with Bruce Lee is these extremely driven people are not easy to get along with.
Yeah.
That's why it's good to be mediocre like us.
Yeah, I can get along with anyone because nobody's threatened by me. I mean, shit. And I'm not driven. Everything's good.
Exactly.
If I had any talent, I wouldn't be anywhere near as nice.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, man.
But yes, she kind of gets short shift after a while because the storyline pushes away from that, from their romance, and her character kind of falls off, really. Which I don't know whether it's to the detriment or not. I saw it as a bit of a dislike because I felt that the chemistry between them was okay, and they both gave reasonable performances, but I think the film's problem, the reason why a lot of that comes up is because they're jumping over these gaps. They're just montaging their way through.
Yeah.
Like there are large portions where it's just a montage to skip over stuff that they didn't really want to explore. They just wanted to touch quickly on it and move on. And I appreciate it because you're talking about a guy that could have filled up a lot more time, but you've also, with biopics and the really good ones, they look for a period in time. A lot of the good ones will find a period in time, or they'll do it in a flashback way or something like that. Whereas this kind of just decides to take the Rocky IV approach and just montage through.
Yeah, there's a lot of scored songs in this.
Oh man, that's my second dislike. The music is just. I've got nothing against the actual theme, but they just lean on it the whole time.
Yeah,
there isn't barely any difference in music. They just bombastically chuck the theme in at any moment, at any opportune point.
Yeah, absolutely. Overly romantic.
Like, why?
Yeah.
How super cartoonish are the... I think this might come back to the way his films used to be.
I know what you're going to say.
The Navy blokes
Yeah.
who just roll in and start going, fuck you.
Yeah. As you said, Adam, Rob Cohen didn't have time for that shit. Don't worry about painting them as, don't just have them come in, start swearing, grabbing people.
Yeah, Rob, we had 4 pages of dialogue here about these guys and what they'd been through.
I can do it in 4 frames.
They're here to get their heads kicked in.
Yeah, that's right.
The rest of it.
Yeah, don't waste time with the sailors. Funnily enough, I recall playing the, for whatever reason they made us, I played it on the Sega Mega Drive, but a video game of Dragon, and it was essentially like a Mortal Kombat / Street Fighter style fighting game, but you fought through these sequences. You fought through the sailors, the chefs, then you'd have a tiff with the demon, and then
awesome.
just found that worth mentioning now that you reminded me of it.
Sounds like a gem.
Yeah, they were cartoony in that too, funnily enough. One of my bigger ones, I mentioned it about the demon and how I really liked, in hindsight, it actually does do a fairly decent job of kind of representing some of his fears and insecurities and what his dad had feared for him. But, like, watching back, it seems to tie into the race. It seems like race and getting caught between America and China was where his confidence took a hit.
Yeah.
And throughout the film, it starts off like he's up for the challenge, right? Anytime he faces some of those instances of racism, he sort of seems confident and willing to just sort of say, I'm going to change this perception, essentially. Yeah. And they show a couple of those times, the Mickey Rooney sequence and losing out on Kung Fu and that sort of thing to kind of show a struggle with that, but it never really goes too deep into it. You have these really kind of really upfront examples of the racism, but I don't feel like he struggles. You don't see him struggle with it as much. So at times you wonder what the demon's actually doing there.
Yeah.
You wonder what he's struggling with because he seems so super confident and driven that he never really seemed to be struggling with anything. That was just kind of my read on it, and maybe that came from watching Be Water as well. It seemed like that's what they talked about, that the struggles that he had were. So it felt like perhaps it could have just been done a little bit more of showing him struggling with that throughout.
Even just behind closed doors.
Yeah.
A conversation with Linda would have been useful.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It shows him sort of struggling at the cinema and kind of internalising it a little bit. It shows him struggling at when Kung Fu comes on the TV. But then
the restaurant?
The restaurant. But then the only time you see him kind of verbalise any of that or really go into
right
it is when he blows up in the apartment about his identity. And it seems like, we could have kind of just developed a little bit more to that point. So that was really my only...
It's a casualty.
That was really my only issue with the demon stuff, is that sometimes it felt like, what is it representing here? Yeah.
But the race stuff is also a casualty of trying to put in so much, so much about this guy in 2 hours.
Yeah. But it feels like a really important one. I mean, you spent so much time on Lauren Holly and Linda Lee and his love story. But in the scheme of things, in terms of what he meant to the world, the way he changed the perception of Asian characters on screen probably had a bit important. Probably had its place in there as well.
Again, this could have done with being a little more focused on the key time in his career.
Yeah.
And maybe, and I'm just saying this, spitballing, when he came to America to follow and picked up, got into and he started his dojo and everything, maybe that's where you set your biopic in place. Is there, and you work through from there. But it's hamstrung by the fact that it's got 2 hours to work with.
Yeah.
And it seems to be kind of rushing through some things, so some casualties are happening, and I think some of that interesting race stuff would have been, unfortunately, is just kind of glossed over because we haven't got time.
Yeah, probably.
To get to it.
They were building him up, there's no doubt about it. Like his real story, he was a child actor that did Kung Fu and then Like, he was obviously always trying to make it as an actor.
Yeah.
That was where his passion was. But the kung fu was his avenue to get into it.
Yeah.
And they made him just seem so aloof, and everything came by chance. And a producer saw him in a fight and said, "You'd be great on the screen." Like none of the actual work that would have gone into it, that again would have been super interesting.
Yeah.
They just didn't explore it at all.
I've only got one other dislike, and it was the fight in the gym.
Yep.
At college. It just seems like one too many in a row. I appreciate why.
No, there's never too many, is there?
Well, there is never too many.
I also did enjoy how he was dodging the punches and then slapping the dude on the chest and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, I see what you're saying.
And don't get me wrong.
I see what you're saying.
It was a well-done fight scene, and it had a purpose. It was about becoming a teacher.
Yeah.
That was there. But it just, at that stage, we hadn't learned a lot about him other than the fact that he just kicks heads for a living. Like he just kicks ass.
Yeah.
That's all we learned. I mean, that's a Rob Cohen school of filmmaking, but
yeah, I see what you're saying. It did kind of come after a string of fight sequences.
We could have perhaps segued into his teaching a little bit of a different avenue or a different way.
Yeah. Yeah,
without
possibly.
having to have another blue.
Yeah, I mean, he could have diffused it. He could have diffused it without going to the lengths. Perhaps he could have diffused it.
Well, that's what I thought was going to happen initially.
But yeah, I see what you're saying there for sure.
So what about you guys? Other dislikes?
I had a couple of extras. Okay, so the martial arts committee that is upset with him and instigates the fight. Obviously, that did have some place in truth, but I'm pretty sure they didn't have a lair that looked like something out of Mortal Kombat.
The quintessence from the 1986 Transformers.
When they roll in there and those blokes are sitting up on the chairs over this little kind of amphitheatre / fighting pit. I was sitting there thinking, I'm pretty sure that didn't exist.
Flash Gordon or something. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a leftover from Flash Gordon.
Yeah, I did enjoy the fight sequence, but I was thinking, maybe we could have set it somewhere else and still had it been like an ominous kind of place. The other one was a couple of instances of Lauren Holly. I think she falls flat delivering a couple of what seem like they're supposed to be big lines written for her, picking out the ones where she says, let me tell you about my culture. We love Big Trouble. And then something about the Notebook, and, when he's in traction, she says, look, this looks like the one we had in school, right? Wrong. This is your future. And I was just like, oh, that really did not land there. A couple of times she kind of misfired on those ones. And may I also add, I know it was supposed to be awkward, but telling a bloke in traction that this thing is sexy and maybe we can keep it where you get better. I mean, shit, he wasn't even thinking about that, but now he's going to be. And by the looks of it, if you could crack a fat while he was in that bloody traction, he'd be doing very well. It looked like it was pretty tight.
Yeah, look, he's not getting wood in that, mate. He's not getting wood.
And I'm pretty sure
he had bigger fish to fry at that stage.
If he did, I'm pretty sure he'd crack one and then go, my back. So that was not nice of you. That was not nice of you there, Linda. That was not the thing to be saying at the time.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, a couple of those fell a little flat.
Yeah, she became two-dimensional.
Yeah, she did a little bit.
Yes, and I think I would pinpoint the period when he got hurt.
Yeah, as
being the period where her character becomes a little flat and sort of steps back a little. It becomes exactly what you said, Matty, is just kind of like the wife.
It's like overly theatrical. I'm not going to stand here and watch you fight and throw your life away. And then she like runs out, but then she comes back in. She really
takes a peek back in the door.
Yeah.
I also my last one, even though it wasn't a big one, it was more a little chuckle that I had. But as far as I'm aware, martial arts teaches a lot about discipline. I tell you what, you wouldn't fucking know it from the crowd at that martial arts tournament because the crowd behaviour is a fucking disgrace. None of them are showing any self-control. None of them are being like water. They're all just fucking shouting and screaming. And I kind of enjoyed the performance of a few of the extras in that scene where one of them kind of nudges the other one and encourages him to start going, fight. And they're all doing it.
And one guy is dishing out the most overly theatrical, prove it! Camera. It's like, oh shit.
As Linda's walking out too, there's an old guy and a dude with like he's kind of got a sort of a mullet and a mustache kind of combo, and they're kind of working each other up as well. And I was just like, I was thinking, what? They probably could have framed this a little bit differently to get those people off the camera. It's funny. It made me laugh, but again, that's probably a little bit more true to life because I think that was representing the speech where he did. Or one of the instances where he did put a lot of people offside by openly.
But he was doing that all over the place, apparently.
Yeah. So he had. I think that one was supposed to be like the first one where he kind of talked at like an open demonstration and had a reaction where some people were like, "Wow, this is really interesting," and where some of the more traditional people were.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, he used lines like he actually referred to a couple of those old teachers and said they're tigers with no teeth and. Really kind of offended some of them, which I think, if I'm not mistaken, again, I think that sort of stuff actually led up to the fight that he had.
Yeah.
Right.
No, yeah, that's what I heard.
So any other dislikes from you guys?
No, I think the crowd behaviour for the rest of the movie was fairly well restrained.
Tolerable.
I finished watching. I'm a bit sad that we don't refer to Jason Scott Lee as JSL, but he hasn't got a career outside of that in Jungle Book that I've paid any attention to.
No, he also popped up in Hollow Man 2, was it? No, that's Christian Slater.
He did Time Cop 2.
He was in a sequel of Time Cop 2.
He did Time Cop 2 and he did Dracula 2002 and 3, I believe.
Yeah. He did a good job. I thought he was really good in that role.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame because he did show. I think he showed a bit of potential in this, like that he did.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was just an instance where this is kind of the perfect role, and that little bit of that overacting did work out because that's how Bruce Lee sort of presented.
I think after this, I think he would have just been cast in that, only been seen as the Asian actor.
Yeah,
I think that would have been followed him around. It was even though it was like the one role that got him prominence, that also probably cast him in a typecast situation.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, I reckon that's probably what it was. He got typecast. I mean,
couldn't unsee him as Bruce Lee.
It wasn't a great script, but it seems that he didn't particularly go on from this, which is disappointing because I actually think he's definitely had some. Has talent. I just feel that he probably just didn't get opportunities that he was after at the end of the day. All right, that is Dragon, the Bruce Lee story. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify and Podomatic. Send us an email at thrillme@ionet.net.au. We're on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia and at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. We're also on Instagram at Thrill Me Podcast. Big thank you again to Jehovah for selecting this film for us. The next episode, now, gentlemen, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we'd like to finish up the It saga. Ooh. Is that correct?
I'm in.
Next episode?
Yeah, well, we might have trouble getting Gibbo back because remember he watched the second part of the original and was fucking filthy about that too.
Yeah, he did the whole package in one hit.
But yes, I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, I think we should knock that over. I'd like to knock over a few of our sort of sequels to films we've already done. So Speed 2, here we come.
yeah, let's do it.
Wrap it up. All right. That's it for us. Keep an eye out on the Facebook page for any of our updates and everything. But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers. Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia, or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.